So I'm going to be talking a little bit about how progressive web apps fit into Windows, the things that we're thinking about on how to innovate with progressive web apps, how to make development of progressive web apps that much easier for developers and come up with some really interesting experiences. But first, I'd like to thank my teammate, Karupa. Karupa is, he gave me most of the material here. He's done a fantastic job at Microsoft at being an evangelist for progressive web apps. He just had a baby, so if you don't mind, if you could tweet out to him, congratulations, Karupa, on your new baby, I'd really appreciate it. So his Twitter handle is @Karupa. It'll take a minute, just pull out your phone real quick and just say congratulations, and I would really appreciate that, guys. So clearly web apps are everywhere. And as web developers, we want to get our stuff out there. We want to leverage the browser as much as possible. We want our experiences to really make users happy. And the great thing is that as the web has evolved, so have the form factors. You pull up your phone every day and you take it for granted that when you spark up a browser, you're going to get your web page working. And for a long time, that wasn't the case. But as web technologies has evolved, so have the abilities to target these multiple form factors. And it's a fantastic time. So whether you're on an iPad, or whether you're using a Samsung device, or whether you're using a PC, whatever it might be, your web apps can now target any possible device out there. I mean, we're even talking about wearables and virtual reality devices. That's pretty cool. I know, Ada, you're very, very vested in virtual reality. So I love the fact that you're a pioneer trying to make progressive web apps and the web awesome on VR. And that's great. And so there's a whole host of technologies that you can leverage nowadays. And the cool thing about that is that when they're building these frameworks and when they're building these tool chains, the developers in the community are taking into consideration the fact that we are in a multi-form factor environment. It's amazing because we want one code base to rule them all. We really do. We want to build once and we want to deploy on many devices. Why? Because it saves us time. It saves us agony. You know, we want, and again, resources are the most valuable commodity that we have in our teams. If you really think about it, if you have to spread your team out across multiple target platforms, it becomes a big cost center. And so if we can consolidate that a little bit and have that one code base that puts it out there, that's great. But the thing is that we, as web developers, we also want the benefits of native apps. And that's been the challenge for a long time. You know, we want to have really cool and better device integration. We want to get in there and we want to have the cool apps that will come up on a very cool smartwatch. We want, you know, we're gamers. I know I used to be a gamer at least. My wife now kind of put the kibosh on that one. Who still games? Yeah, who does Fortnite? Okay, Fortnite. I mean, that's like the new gamer drug. It's crazy. But, you know, people want to get on there and they want to be able to use their devices to game. And of course, we have new advanced authentication capabilities and the traditional smartphone. We want to make sure that we target these multiple devices and we can have different orientations and capabilities. So how do you choose what to build for? And should you choose? Well, in some cases, I'm sure you have to. But in most cases, the way we look at it is that if you focus on a great user experience, you shouldn't really have to choose. If you think about the way that you build your app in a responsive nature, you're taking advantage of progressive enhancement. You're using web-based standards features. You shouldn't have to use because ultimately, the users really don't care about the underlying technology they're using. They just want a great experience. Anybody agree with that? Yeah. They don't, you know, that's what we want. You know, I want to pull up my phone and I want to be able to go to Trivago, because I love that Trivago guy, and you know, when he's up there going, yeah, you know, it's kind of cool. He has like this Rico Suave type of thing, which is kind of interesting. I can't do that, but it's kind of neat. And so the problem is that there's always been this debate about web versus native. And I've been part of those debates, and I like to troll people who are on the native side and tell them, oh, whatever, you know, and it becomes a whole battle. But it shouldn't be web versus that. And some people think, well, maybe it's web and native. I don't even think it has to be web and native. Can, but I don't even think so. I think, you know, the web does love native, and it's been proven. You look at like an app like Amazon. Amazon's app has web views built into it. And why? Because they like to iterate quickly. A company like that needs to make changes very quickly to adapt to their ever-growing product base and their user base. They want to get these features in very quickly. So it's a combination of both native and web. And it's because the web does love native. You can mix and match. And so if you build an awesome web app, users will come. because they don't care about what's under the hood. They care about what's in front of them. They want to know that if they click on buy now, that's coming to them in, via Amazon Prime in 2 days. So I know that my daughters, when they click now, they Jones on that 2 days. If they don't get it in 2 days, oh man, it's a bad situation. But ultimately, it doesn't boil down to that buy now. It boils down to the fact that it's a good experience. It makes things flow easily. And it's a combination of both web and native. And with progressive web apps, we're now able to take it even further. We're now looking at the ability to build true native-like experiences. Let's call that the holy grail of web app development, where we want to kind of blur the lines between what is a native app and what is a web experience, and that's the way it should be. We shouldn't have to worry about whether we need to code in, I don't know, what's the new language from macOS? Well, not Swift. Swift was older, but there was another. Wasn't there one? No, it's Android. Android has something. There you go, Conklin or Swift. We should just be able to code for the web, the languages that we love, whether it's JavaScript, HTML5, CSS3, or whatever it is. And if you look at what a progressive web app is supposed to be about, well, you want it to start really fast. That's how you mimic a native experience. You want it to work across a variety of devices. Makes total sense. Of course, you want it to be secure. So you want encrypted transactions back and forth. And offline support has been that one critical thing that we've been struggling with. And thankfully, Service Worker and Alex Russell, I love you for this. I don't think he's here. Is he? No. So Service Worker has really helped with that. And push notifications, the things that allow you as developers to thoughtfully, and I'm saying thoughtfully, notify users of things that are happening, which is really important. And of course, the big thing is provide better device integration, because you want to capitalize on what the devices actually provide to you. So that way, when you do target a variety of different devices, you can leverage the capabilities of them, whether it's a gamepad, whether it's the mouse and keyboard, or maybe you're doing mixed reality. You want to be able to put that into your app. And the great thing about the web is that there are APIs that are constantly evolving that are allowing you to take advantage of that, whether it's WebVR, for example, that allows you to leverage virtual reality scenarios within the context of the web. So you want those things to be in there. Now for us, we love progressive web apps, and we see them as a first-class citizen on the Windows. We want them to be considered on par with every native app that's out there. We want to be able to provide that same capability that developers have become accustomed to and that users are expecting. And so, when you install a progressive web app, even though it's built on web technologies, we still see this as a universal Windows platform app with all the advantages that you might expect from that type of application. Having low-level file access, having device integration capabilities through the Windows runtime APIs. Those are things that we feel are important to giving the flexibility and power to developers to build really delightful experiences. And so when you look at something like Hacker News, which is on our store, this is a PWA that's installable. We want that experience. We want users to be able to go to some place to have discoverability. If you think about web apps, one of the biggest problems that we've had right now is discoverability. Why? Because there's how many hundreds of millions of pages out there. So being able to allow users to discover the things that are important to you and the apps that matter are critical. And I think we're seeing this across multiple browser makers. We've had discussions with Samsung, with Google, with Mozilla, and we know that developers want discoverability. They want the tools to let their users find these great experiences. And we want to make sure that when a user goes on there, they can launch it like any other app. By clicking launch, they'll get a really cool experience just like this. Notice that even though it's a web app, do you see any URL bar there? Do you see any of the typical browser Chrome that you might want or you might have in a browser? No, and it's because we want to give them as much of an app like Chrome as possible. We want to minimize that and make this a true app-like experience. And that's whether they're on a laptop or whether they're on a mobile device. I think Twitter is such a great example of this, and we've been working with Twitter. It's awesome because Daniel mentioned that Samsung has been working with Twitter as well, and so there's a clear momentum going among major properties to take advantage of progressive web apps as a way to get a broader reach on all these various platforms. And just like Samsung and Google and Mozilla, we're working with Twitter as well. We've actually launched a PWA, which has been fantastic. It's amazing this type of stuff that you can do with these partners, and the fact that they can take advantage of the native APIs that are part of the operating system to go ahead and build something really compelling. So for example, and thank you, Kyle, for doing these wonderful slides. This is launching the Twitter PWA straight from the taskbar. So if you look down here, you'll see that this is pinned to the taskbar now. This is a true app that's pinned to the taskbar, and somebody can click on that and launch it. Or you can have taskbar shortcuts, basically. So you can right mouse click on the taskbar and have pop-ups that explicitly go to functionality within the PWA. That's pretty impressive stuff. The thing like pin to start menu. One of the things that Windows has been really popular, that it's a feature that's been really popular, is live tiles. And I will say that's a pretty cool thing where you can have a tile that flips out and gives you information on a consistent basis. The ability to take a user and pin them down to the start menu, and you'll see it now come up, close down, and there you go, and there I am. Look at that mug. Look at that mug, yeah. All right, and so the fact that that live tile is there and a developer can leverage that and also give updates about the things that I'm tweeting about or the things that are important to them, that's pretty cool. And then, of course, things like our share contract, where you can be on a web page and you can have the sharing capability directly integrated so that now I can send that out to Twitter automatically. These are all things that we are working on to allow developers to light up their apps. And what we're also trying to do is be cognizant of the standards process. Some of these things we know might not be standards, but we're working with the standards body to get them standardized in some fashion. And where there is a standard, we are working to make sure that those APIs are shimmed in some fashion so developers don't have to do double the work. So once things become standardized, a developer can go ahead and just say, all right, we're going to use the web standard API to build out a share contract. Those are things that are important to us, and as those standards evolve and they become available, we want to make sure that we are thoughtful to the developer community as well. Now, there are two ways that we're looking at bringing PWAs into the store. The first one is to allow developers to submit it manually, and that's a normal process. We've actually built this tool called PWA Builder, which is really nice because you put in your URL, and we do some checks. We look for a well-formed manifest file, and we take some information out of that, and then we'll actually package it up into an AppX. In fact, we even take it a step further where we allow you to create a service worker, so you can have that offline capability that you want. So the next one is we submit it automatically for you. Now, I know that most of you will Google things. Yeah, we know. And now Samsung will let you DuckDuckGo things. But you know, Microsoft does have a search engine, right? You all knew that, right? All right, it's called Bing. It's a pretty good search engine. We're pretty proud of it, and we crawl lots of pages. And the great thing about that is that because we have this really advanced technology for crawling pages, we decided to leverage that to find really great examples of progressive web apps. Progressive web apps where you can have a clear manifest file that's well-formed, where we can look at certain properties to determine, is this a true PWA and is a PWA that we want to actually promote in some fashion. And so we will grab that and we will actually submit it thoughtfully into the store. We're not going to make it available right off the bat. We want to do some homework as well. We want to make sure that this is something that we want to put into the store, but most importantly, we want to give developers the opportunity to decide whether their app, the one that we just ingested, is something that they want to publish. Because it's not our place to just go ahead and publish stuff. So if you decide that you don't like that PWA in the store, we understand. But we hope you do, and we hope you're going to create that account and click publish and let it go up in the store and give people the ability to find your awesome experience. So it is developer choice. It's not something that we're forcing on, but we're trying to do some legwork ahead of time to make these things more discoverable and easier to work with. So if you look at it, we're trying again to do a couple things. So we're trying to allow users to find great experiences. We want developers to have access to all the great things that Microsoft provides to them from a developer experience. We want to open up developers, and I'm going to read this directly. Developers know their PWAs will be a great experience on Microsoft devices. And yeah, we're a little biased, we know it. but we think we can offer some really great experiences with some of the device APIs that we offer. And so right now, if you look at it, like if we search for Airbnb right now, unfortunately, we're not having a great, we don't have a great experience there. And we get something like 12,000 searches per month just for the term Airbnb. And that's kind of sad where you go to a store and users don't have options. We want to give them options. We want to make sure that when they search, Airbnb will be there for them, and Twitter will be there for them, and all these awesome experiences. And so that way they can install the app and have a great Airbnb app to work from, and book that awesome place for that getaway. So it'll be based on meta tags. That's the way we work. We're going to look at your web app manifest. We're going to make sure that you formatted it correctly, that you have all the things that we need to actually go ahead and bundle it up into what we call an AppX. It's just an application package. Think of it as a fancy name for a zip file. All right? But we take that, and that's how we're going to publish it to the store, and we're going to make it searchable through our Windows Store. Now, we're piloting this experience. This is not something that we've opened the floodgates and, hey, all of a sudden, hey, a bunch of PWAs. We're taking our time. We're being methodical, because we know that there's a lot of moving pieces in there. We have to crawl. We have to identify really good experiences. We have to do some legwork on our end. We have to do some things that are manual to make sure that the experiences are top-notch, that they're meeting the bar for what a store should be and what users are expecting. And we're going to roll this out more and more as we get along. And ultimately for us, PWAs are still, we consider them native experiences on Windows. We just want more store integration. We want more discoverability capabilities. We want more device integration. It's just a great opportunity to expand the reach of what progressive web apps can do. And unfortunately, there's still this thing where a lot of people think PWAs are just a mobile thing, and they're not. It was great when it was coined when the term came out, progressive web apps. And yeah, there was a lot of work done on mobile devices to prove that this was possible to have these web-based native experiences, but it's past that. There's opportunities across all form factors, and we got to leverage that. And we're doing our best to kind of do that. Because obviously PWAs are great for developers. We think there's opportunities for everybody here. They're great for users. Why? Because users now get expanded experiences that they may not have even known they were available. And we want that to continue on. So what's next here? Well, if you look at the web right now, basically you have, the way we look at things is in terms of edge, is that you have web apps in the browser. That's great. And you have web apps that will run as an application within the Windows ecosystem. Okay. But if you look at them, they basically look the same, right? So why are we having these two very distinct methods of building apps? If you look at the technologies, they run HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. They basically have a Chrome around them to some extent. And there's some small differences in the way that you discover them, but basically, from a UX perspective, they're pretty much the same. And so we're trying to figure out now, how do we bridge this divide? It doesn't make any sense that we have such two different experiences for deploying out apps. So we're trying to figure out, how do we bridge that? How do we make it easier for developers to have a much more consistent experience for deploying their web apps? And so that's why we're looking at things like access to full screen, or different ways of rendering the Chrome, whether it's a minimal UI or making it look like a traditional browser. We keep working on these things to kind of continue to blur the lines of what is a web application and what is a native app. There should be no distinction. It should be easy for a user to just install something and have a great experience, whether you're leveraging awesome web technologies or whether you're using a native technology. And native technologies aren't going away. There are clear advantages to using some native technologies. If you're into high performance gaming, and Ada, you might have some words with me on that one, but you might want to leverage the native operating system, the native language, things like that. You might. I notice I'm saying might. Ada's laughing because she has her very, very, very hard opinions on that one. But ultimately, there's so much gaming that's happening now using web technologies that we want to make sure that we can blur the lines. And I like saying blur the lines because I think that's the key phrase right there. Having web technologies and native technologies be inconsequential. Just blur them, basically. So we think browser and app container unification is a good thing, and we're going to keep working on that. Because once we do that, we know we'll make you happy, clearly. Giving you great APIs, giving you great tools, things like that will certainly make you happy. And of course, if you're happy, that means your users are happy. It just makes us happy. It makes you happy. It makes you, I'm going round trip now, sorry. And so basically, we just want to make everybody happy. So with that, thank you very much.